Hello everyone. What we're going to talk today about and what I'm going to show you is how to set up your animation. And I want your animation to be pretty similar to this. There's lots of ways you can do this, but try to follow this as closely as possible. We're going to, for the first time, we're going to introduce interactivity to your animation. This is very common with internet animations. Games have a lot of interactivity. Animations on the internet have a lot of interactivity. Simulations have a lot of interactivity. And this is the very beginnings of interactivity. It's an important part. Now, this is a beginner's class, so we're not going to cover a lot of complex interaction. We're just going to cover basic start, stop buttons and how to set up a kind of frame-by-frame animation that performs each of these functions, each of these start, stop, play functions. So if you look at my movie here, you can see I've set up my design of my movie my animation, my simulation, pretty much the same as my storyboard was. I've added a couple things though, just one of them just for fun, and we'll kind of go through this. Now, if you look up at my timeline here, you can see that I have 5 frames. Now, this is going to be important. Okay, the first frame is in my storyboard. It's my start frame, and it gives the user the opportunity to push start and begin the animation. The next frame looks like a start frame. However, this is my restart frame. This is where if a user clicks restart later on in the animation, it will come back to this second frame and play, and then go to the third frame and stop there, and that's where my animation is stored, is in the third frame. So in the third frame, you can see this is the play animation. You can see I have a pause and a restart here because I need those available as the animation is playing if the user wants to pause or restart the animation. The next one is the pause frame. This is what the animation will look like when it's paused. The user can press start again to unpause, I guess, or the user can push restart to go back to the beginning. Then the last frame is what it will look like at the end of the animation. So this is kind of like the stop frame. And they'll only have one option to click on, and that's this restart button. So I hope that makes sense to you. So you have a start frame. This is the restart frame. This is where it will go. Now, the reason you do this second restart frame, maybe I should explain this a little bit more carefully, is if I were to just restart the animation back to frame 1, it wouldn't start. It would stop because my start frame, if you go to the actions, has a stop in it. Okay? So I've got to have another frame where I can go to, where it will go to that spot, play on, and then go to this thing, and begin the animation. Now, the reason I can't have it go to the third frame instead of the second frame, because if this is the start of my animation, why not just go there? Well, the reason is right now I've got this restart button, and if I tell Flash to go to the same frame it's already currently on, it's not going to restart any animations. The only time it will restart or start a new animation is if the instance begins again. See, right here I've got my buttons, my dynamic text, and the water, which is the waves. And in order for those waves to restart, I've got to go through that right there again. I've got to reintroduce this instance. And if I just stay on the same frame, it's not going to reintroduce that instance. But if I go back to a frame before it, have it play, and then stop right there, it will reintroduce that instance again. Now, if you have any questions on that, don't hesitate to ask. That's kind of a little bit of a complex concept, but just understand that this is the start frame, the restart frame, pause frame, the unpause frame, I guess you could call that one, and then the stop frame. And you'll need to have these frames in your animation. Okay, so this means you'll notice that I don't have any animation on my in scene 1 on my stage, the main scene, and that's what I expect out of you for this project, is that you will have no animations on the main timeline, but that all your animations will be stored in movie clips. For instance, this water, if I click in there, you can see here is my animation, and it's got the waves going, and it's fairly long. I think it's over 700 frames long. And then I've also got little animations stored within even that movie clip. Each one of these droplets, you can see they're not animated here, but they're animated within that movie clip, because all the droplets are the same except for their height, so I just sized them as individual movie clips, so I didn't have to redo the animation over and over again. So here's the animation for the ellipses for the droplets. Okay, and each of those it's the same exact movie clip. Okay, so you can set up things that way. And I always try to think, okay, how can I do as few animations as possible? How can I reuse my movie clips? If you have a movie clip that can be reused over and over again, do that, because that saves you a lot of time in production and creating animations. Because animations, they take time to create. All right. Okay, so that's this basic setup of your animation. Okay. Now you'll notice again, I'll reiterate this. That means my animation has to start in frame 3. And the stuff before here, you can see the droplets have disappeared. I don't have my way. You can see that's just in frame 1. In frame 1, the water is just a drawing object. It's not a movie clip. And then when I get to the actual waves, then the instance changes. You can see that, and it becomes this movie clip that has the animation stored inside of it. You can see my dynamic text only appears in that frame 3. That way it will reinstantiate and begin all over again. Okay, you can see the buttons are all different on each one, and you can put your buttons on one layer. That's fine. Okay. All right. Now, one thing that I haven't showed you before that is helpful. See these buttons, how they are aligned perfectly? Now, there's this cool little thing down here called the Align palette that you can align things with. Let's say this pause button, for instance. Let's unlock this layer. Let's say this pause button is over here, and I want it to line perfectly with that start button. Well, what you can do is click on Edit Multiple Frames, okay, and then this little bracket up here, you pull over the frames you want to edit. So I don't want to edit that far. I just want these first 3 frames. And I can select the pause button, Shift, select the start button. You can see that they're both selected, and then just go Align, Align. And now, if I unclick Edit Multiple Frames, you can see that they are perfectly aligned. That's a nice little tool to help edit across multiple frames. All right, so, but there are some things in this movie clip, this animation, that don't need to be different. They're the same throughout the whole thing. For instance, most of my text does not change. Some of the drawings does not change. This reef I made right here, I guess sand, whatever you want to call it, is just it's just a drawing object. It's going to stay the same throughout the whole movie. This mask layer, that's kind of the background, that's going to stay the same throughout the whole movie. Okay, so this is how you set up your movie. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. In the next movie, we'll talk about how to do buttons and how to program these buttons. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next tutorial, and look forward to seeing your projects. Thanks.